Desmond looked up when he heard the bell above his shop door ring. Jack, his co-worker, was in the room and Desmond watched as he approached the three girls who entered. They were dressed very similarly, and Desmond wondered if they were related or just friends. They clearly looked like relatives. He returned to his work. The neck of the old Ibanez was very worn, and he was replacing it. The guitar's owner abandoned it last week, and Desmond finally got around to repairing it. He sold musical instruments, but also repaired them, which was a significant part of his business. He heard Jack talking to the girls and then heard footsteps approaching. Desmond looked up and saw Jack approaching the counter. "Hey, Des, can you help these girls? They want to make a special order." "Of course, send them to my office," he replied. He put down the Ibanez and went to his office, where he sat down at his desk. Jack brought three girls and introduced them. "These girls created a group and want to order something with their name," said Jack. "This is Molly. She is the lead vocalist and bassist. Janet plays guitar and Rachel plays drums." Desmond stood up and they shook hands. "Do you have a power trio?" he asked with a smile. They laughed. "We are a trio, but I'm not sure about the power one," Molly answered. "What equipment are you looking for?" he asked. "A drum set with our name on it," Rachel said. "Do you want the inscription to be built in, or can you just stick on stickers?" "I don't know," she answered. "We didn't know what could be done, that's why we came to talk." The cheapest option is to stick vinyl stickers on what you already have. The most expensive is to replace the installation with a custom one. But I'm not sure how vinyl will hold up to your impacts. I can find out. Anything else? "Yes, 3 monitors with our names on the back so that the audience can see them," Molly added. "I can do this," he said. "Let me show you what I have." He took out the catalogs and sat down next to them on the leather sofa. Molly and Rachel moved over to give him room. They started researching equipment brands, and the girls chose what they liked. Desmond noticed that they smelled nice, and they were not shy about touching him while studying the catalogs. "Do any of you draw?" he asked. "I draw," Molly answered. "Why do you ask?" "I can make a stencil, mark out the letters, and then you paint them," he explained. "I'm not an artist." "Okay," she said. "What about the drums?" "Let me talk to the vinyl guy," he replied. "I'll find out if it works and let you know. If you can save money, I will help." Molly looked at him, and he noticed how incredible her eyes were. They were light gray, almost transparent, which contrasted greatly with her black hair and fair skin. "Thank you," she said. "We were ready to buy new drums. I try to help budding musicians whenever I can. I know how hard it is." "Where do you play?" "At Mayak," she answered. "Come listen to us." Mayak was a fairly popular place, and he thought that the girls must be good if they were allowed to perform there. "Perhaps I'll come in," he said. "Do you play covers or your own songs?" "Both," Molly answered. "Janet writes most of her songs. There are about a third of covers." "What kind of music do you play?" he asked. "It depends on the venue," Janet answered. "We can play metal, or we can play something from the country. Our own songs are more alternative. Do you play yourself, Mr. Jones?" "Please, my father is Mr. Jones. Call me Desmond, and yes, I play." "On what?" Molly asked. "Anything with strings," he answered. "I'm not so good with guitars, I don't like them. I play banjo, mandolin, violin, cello. I also play keyboards and wind instruments. I can beat a little rhythm on the drums." "Shall we light up together sometime?" Rachel suggested. "I don't think I can match your level," he replied. "Come on," Molly said. "I'd really like to play something with these instruments." "What wind instruments do you play?" "Saxophone and flute," he said. "Great," said Janet. "Will you play with us?" "You want me to carry all this equipment to where you play?" "Connect us here," Molly said. "We'll play your instruments. You have such cool amps there." It was Friday, and Saturday was a busy day for the store. Sunday is a day off, so he suggested that they return on Sunday. The girls agreed to meet for lunch, and then return and play. Desmond thought it would be fun. Desmond had a small recording studio in the back of the store, and on Saturday night after closing, he and Jack set it up. He didn't know what equipment the girls used, so he texted Janet. They didn't care, so he set up a Gibson, Thomas Star Classic maple drums, and a pair of Marshall JVM 410 amps. He met the girls for lunch at a steakhouse. This time they were dressed completely differently and no longer seemed so similar. They sat in a round booth, positioned on either side of him. While eating, we joked and laughed a lot and felt very comfortable with him. After lunch, they returned to the store, and he showed them his studio. The girls were delighted. He had an old Gibson Ease 335, and Janet immediately fell in love with it. The guitar looked a little big for her, but she played it like a real pro. They asked if he knew the song Moaning Lisa Smile Group's Wolf Alice. It turned out that he knew, and they played it. The girls were incredibly good. Molly turned out to have an amazing voice, low, hoarse, reminding him of a young Joan Jett. She could sing both softly and shrilly, perfectly coping with metal numbers like Can I Get an Amen and Mayhem Group's Hailstorm. They played for several hours, performing their original compositions, and Desmond was impressed. After the rehearsal, the girls said goodbye and left. It was a wonderful time, and he was impressed. On Wednesday, Desmond unexpectedly received a message from Molly. She asked if he wanted to meet for lunch. "Is this like a date?" he answered. His phone rang. It was Molly. She was laughing. "No, not a date, stupid. You'll have to invite me yourself. I want to discuss something. In fact, the three of us discussed everything, and I was assigned to talk to you." He didn't think about asking her out. She seemed out of his league. "Molly, will you go on a date with me?" he asked. "Perhaps," she answered. "Let's solve another issue first. Then you can ask me again." They met in Applebee's, and she kissed him on the cheek. He felt a little awkward, but she acted calmly, and he quickly relaxed. They ordered food and talked while they waited. The food arrived quickly, and the conversation continued over lunch. After dinner, they had a glass of beer, and Molly seemed a little thoughtful. "What happened, Molly?" he asked. "We really liked ourselves when we played in your studio," she said. "There are two things. Firstly, we wanted to ask, is it possible to rent your studio for rehearsals?" "I don't see any reason why not," he replied. "I don't use it that often." "I'll give you the keys." "What's the second thing?" "Well, we were wondering if you would like to perform with us at local concerts. You add something to our sound that we really like." "I don't know, Molly," he answered. "I don't play professionally. I don't really want to plunge into this scene again. I like my job." "I won't beg you, Desmond," she said. "I understood that you could refuse. But will you at least think?" "Okay, but I think I'm unlikely to agree," he said. "Perhaps I'll change my mind, but don't count on it too much just yet." "In any case, it will be normal," she answered. "We won't put pressure on you. Will you come to our rehearsal tomorrow? We'll be playing in the studio. And come to our concert before you decide, okay?" He agreed, and they ordered another glass of beer. "You were going to ask something else," she reminded. He couldn't remember what it was about. She laughed, and then he understood. "Oh, this. Molly, will you go on a date with me?" "No," she answered. He felt depressed and slightly angry. "Why did you want me to ask then?" Her face immediately became guilty. "Sorry, Desmond. I don't mean no forever. When you decide about our proposal, then I will agree to a date. I just don't want you to think I'm trying to lure you in. Even if you refuse, I will still go with you." He laughed. "It's clear. Well, that would be a pretty big bribe. Let me think." He paid for lunch and walked her to the bus stop. When the bus pulled up, Molly kissed him on the cheek. "I really like you, Desmond," she said. "Don't delay the decision." His head was spinning as he walked back to the store. Molly said she would agree to go on a date with him, and all the girls want him to play with them. He wasn't sure if he wanted to dive back into the club scene. He'd already done this once and hated every minute of it. True, he mostly didn't like the people he played with back then. Maybe things will be different with these cute girls. He didn't know what to do. If he decides to play with them, will that make things weird with Molly? That night, he hardly slept. The next day, he left the store early so as not to see the girls when they came to rehearse. After dinner, he fell asleep on the sofa, but was woken up by the vibration of his phone in his pocket. On the screen was a message from Molly. "Where are you?" "At home," he answered. "We were hoping that you would play with us," she wrote. "I'm still thinking," he replied. She sent him a smiley face, and he leaned his head back on the couch. The next morning, he still hadn't made a decision and came to work with a headache. I took a couple of ibuprofen and felt better by lunchtime. The vinyl guy called him and said the stickers would work. After lunch, he brought them to the store and showed Desmond the stencil he had made. Desmond attached the stencil to 3 monitors and went into the storage room to look for paint. He heard the bell ring above the door and women's voices approaching down the corridor. 3 girls entered the workshop. "Hello, girls. I have stickers and the monitors are ready to go," he said. "Great," said Janet, "but that's not what we came for." "Is there something wrong with the studio?" he asked. "No, everything is fine with the studio. We're here for the answer, Desmond. We think you should play with us." "Do you agree?" Rachel asked. "I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I don't think I want to," he replied. "Why?" asked Janet. "Let's discuss." "Well, first of all, I don't think I'm good enough," he said. "Secondly, I like my job. I have a good business here, it is growing. I'm not rich, but things are looking up. And third, I'm afraid this will complicate my relationship with Molly." The girls looked at her. "Molly?" asked Janet. She laughed. "Well, I sort of agreed to go on a date with him," she said. "I said I would do it as soon as he decided what to do." "Oh my God," Rachel exclaimed. "You should get married." "What nonsense are you talking about?" asked Desmond. "In a couple of years they will build. Home sweet home. With a couple of kids running around the yard. Desmond and Molly Jones," Rachel sang. "Oh God, an old song by the Beatles," Molly exclaimed. All 4 burst into laughter. "Now you have to take her hand while she sings, 'Obladai,'" Janet said with difficulty, choking with laughter. "We can't get married," Desmond laughed. "Why not?" asked Molly. "I will never be able to afford a 20-carat gold ring." They laughed until they cried. When they were able to calm down, the girls became more serious. "This whole not good enough thing is complete nonsense," said Rachel. "We understand that you have a store, and we promise that our concerts will not interfere with your business. And about the third thing, this is a matter between you and Molly. I can't believe you got him ringed so quickly, Molly." Molly walked up to Desmond and took his hands. "Desmond, I'll go on a date with you anyway, but I promise that everything will be fine if you play with us. Please just try. Come to our concert tomorrow evening at Mayak. Bring your banjo and saxophone and play 2 songs with us. We'll rehearse tonight and perform tomorrow. Please." Janet and Rachel joined in the persuasion, and Desmond gave in. "Okay, once. But don't ask me to go on tour with you, okay?" They promised not to ask. Each of the girls kissed him and left. That evening, they rehearsed 2 songs with his participation. When he arrived at Mayak, it was full of people. Apparently, the girls were very popular. The guard didn't want to let him in, but Desmond texted Molly, and she followed him out. She was wearing black leather pants and a small red top that covered almost nothing. She looked amazing. Desmond had noticed how cute she was before, but today she was absolutely adorable. She had a tiny waist, and the top showed off how smoothly it flowed into her shapely yet sexy hips. It was obvious that she was not wearing a bra, and her breasts were noticeably moving with every step. She led him backstage, where Janet and Rachel were already in the dressing room, dressed in exactly the same outfits. Desmond only now realized how beautiful these women were. They ran up to him and hugged him. Molly, who was standing in front of him, also pressed herself close to him. Her eyes shone like 2 gray lakes, and her firm breasts and shoulders touched his chest. Janet and Rachel went back to doing their makeup, and Molly didn't take a step away from it. "Playing always makes me excited," she whispered to him. "We perform better when we're excited." Desmond didn't know if this was the secret, but the girl's performance turned out better than he could have imagined. Molly put on a real show, Janet played her riffs and solos to perfection, and Rachel set the pace so much that the room was literally boiling. When it came time for his two songs, the crowd greeted them with a bang. Molly constantly danced next to him, sometimes even touching him. Her vocals were simply incredible low horse, but at the same time powerful and soulful. After the performance, they returned to the dressing room. Molly didn't leave his side. "Desmond, you were amazing. We all were amazing. Thank you for playing with us," said Rachel. She and Janet hugged him. "Molly, what do you think?" Janet asked. "I think I'm ready for that date," Molly replied. "Desmond, are we going somewhere?" He took her to a small cafe where they ate chicken wings and sat together in the same booth. Molly was by his side the whole time, clinging to him. They laughed and chatted like old acquaintances, and when he paid for dinner, she leaned towards him and whispered in his ear, "Desmond, I want to spend this night with you." "Really?" he asked, hardly believing his ears. "I would be happy, Molly. Are you always so excited after performances?" "Yes, but you don't always have such a cool guy nearby," she answered. He took her to his home, and she immediately began looking around his apartment. "I really like your apartment," she said. "Do you have anything I can wear after my shower?" I sweated a little on stage. "I have a better idea," he said. "How about we take a shower together, and then you don't wear anything?" "I like the way you think," she said. They made love. "Are you all right, Molly?" he asked. "I'm fine, I can't believe it," she whispered. "God, you're a good lover, Desmond. I could get used to it." She went out and rummaged through his drawers until she found one of his old Marine Corps hoodies and a pair of shorts that she could wear. He thought she looked incredibly sexy in his clothes, so he went to take a shower too. They went to IHOP for breakfast, and she wanted him to take her home. She made him wait while she went inside, and when she returned, she had her bag already packed. "Can I stay with you this weekend?" she asked, throwing her bag into his back seat. "I guess I say yes," he laughed. "I can't think of anything I'd like more." She never left. She lived with him for the whole week, and after 2 months he asked her to come stay with him. He played with them 2 nights a week when they were in town, and 2 years later he asked her to marry him. The ring wasn't 20 carats, but it was a 2-carat diamond, and she loved it. They bought a house near the store, and 2 years later Amanda was born. Dre followed 2 years later, and sure enough, there were a couple of kids running around in Desmond and Molly Jones' yard. Desmond worked in a store, and the children went to work with him every day. When they went to school, they came to the store every day after school and did their homework in his office. Molly was still singing with the group and felt that they were on the verge of a breakthrough. Having children set them back a bit, but she wanted them and thought they were worth it. The children loved their mother very much and considered her the coolest person on earth. When Amanda was 9 and Dre was 7, Molly came home from the club very excited. She woke them up and gathered her family on the couch to tell them the news. "We got invited to play a huge show in Oklahoma," she told them. "We were invited by a major label producer, and if he likes us, he will offer us a contract." They were all very excited, and she was surrounded by fans. After the kids went to bed, she took Desmond to bed. The next morning, Janet and Rachel picked her up in the group's van and hugged and kissed Desmond and the kids goodbye. They will be gone for 5 days. He and Molly had never been apart for so long before, and he would miss her. She didn't return home before the children went to bed. She went to the shower, and when he came into the bedroom, she snuggled up to him. He wanted to make love to her, but she complained that she was still very tired, so he just hugged her and fell asleep. It was Sunday, and he slept late. When he got up, breakfast was ready, and there were no children. "Where are the children?" he asked. "Janet and Rachel have them," she said. "I need to talk to you, Desmond." "What happened, dear?" he asked. She led him to the sofa and sat down on the chair opposite him. "I have problems, Desmond," she said. "I don't want to say it, but I did something that I will regret for the rest of my life." She began to cry, and her sobs became louder. Desmond felt his chest tighten and waited patiently. After a few minutes, she calmed down a little and began to talk. She was desperate to sign with a label, and their band performed perfectly. The producer was delighted and said that he wanted to sign a contract with them. There were a few details left to be ironed out, and he asked if Molly would like to discuss them with him. She happily agreed, and they went to the hotel. She went to his room, he brought them drinks, and they began to discuss the contract. The document was long, and it took a lot of time. She drank a few glasses and then felt his hand. He said it was a big chance, and to seal the deal, they needed to sleep together. She was terrified, but after the performance, in a state of excitement and under the influence of alcohol, she allowed him to make love to her. The next morning, she felt terrible. Hungover and filled with remorse, she spent the day crying in her room. She didn't speak to Janet or Rachel, and the ride back home was unbearable. She felt that they suspected what she had done, and they did not say a word to her. "He has a video of me sleeping with him, Desmond," she sobbed. "He's blackmailing me, and I let him do it again. He said he would send it to you if I said no. He threatened to show it to Janet and Rachel. They already hate me, and I knew how painful it would be for you, so I agreed. And now he wants me to act in a film with other men, but I can't. I'd rather tell you everything. I'm in terrible trouble, Des." He said he would post the video on the internet. Desmond sat in shocked silence. He felt only numbness. For a long time, his mind refused to work. Molly rushed to his feet and grabbed his knees. "Say something, Des." He pushed her away. "I'll get this video," he said. "Don't be here when I get back, Molly." "What are you going to do?" she screamed. "Don't kill him, Desmond. You'll go to jail." She tried to hug him, but he pulled away. "I swear to God, if you touch me, Molly, I'll throw up," he said. "I don't want to touch you." "Don't be here when I get back. You will go and explain this to the children yourself. I'll pick them up later." "No, Des, please talk to me. I'm very, very sorry. I swear to God, I'll fix this somehow." She followed him into the bedroom and continued to beg while he rummaged through the drawers. Finally, he pulled one of them out, threw it on the floor, and it broke into pieces. Molly was crying hysterically. He found what he was looking for, left the house, and got into the car. She tried to open the door, but he blocked it. He lowered the window a few centimeters. "Don't be here when I get back," he repeated. The rest of his actions included harassment of producer Jerry Sandfield, threats and physical coercion that resulted in the return of all incriminating material. After this, he decided to divorce Molly and start a new life with children, leaving all memories of betrayal in the past. When he got out of the car, he went to Janet and Rachel's house to get the children. When he arrived, they apparently were waiting for him because they ran out into the street, crying and trembling. It was unbearably painful for Desmond to see them in this state. Janet and Rachel also came out to say goodbye, hugged the children, and put them in the car. "Desmond, I'm really sorry," Janet said. "It's not your fault," he replied. At that moment, Molly came out of the house and tried to open the car door, but Amanda blocked the locks. "Go away," she shouted to her mother. "We don't want to see you anymore." Desmond backed up and drove away, leaving Molly sobbing in the driveway. He drove in silence, listening to the children cry in the back seat. When they arrived home, he sat down with them on the sofa and had a long conversation. His heart was breaking into pieces as he tried to console them. They cried themselves to sleep, and Desmond carried them to his bed. Then he went to the shower himself, where he stood under the hot water until he felt that he could no longer hold back his tears. He remembered how Molly stood in the shower with wet hair and drops of water on her beautiful body. This picture sent new waves of pain through him, and he burst into tears, shaking with deep sobs until he was completely exhausted. Later, he went to bed with the children. The next morning, he woke up with rage in his heart. In a daze, he prepared breakfast for the children, walked them to school, hugged and kissed them, and then was left alone. He called his friend Jack and said that he would not come to work today. At about 10:30, the doorbell rang. It was Rachel, and Desmond didn't want to talk to her. He returned to the living room, but she did not leave. She continued to ring and knock until he finally looked through the peephole. Rachel was crying on the steps, and he couldn't stand it. He opened the door, and she rushed to him, hugged him, and sobbed into his chest. Desmond felt tears running down his cheeks. He hugged her and brought her to the sofa, where they sat for a long time, holding each other, silently sharing their common pain. After a while, Rachel got up and went to the bathroom. He heard the water run, and then she returned with a damp towel and handed it to him. She herself sat down on the sofa and put a cold compress on her face. The gesture made him smile slightly. "I'm a real wreck, Desmond," she said. "What should we do?" "I don't know," he answered. "What did she tell you?" "That's it," she said. "What are you going to do with the video?" "I have it and about 20 others," he said. "Would you like to watch some adult videos?" She laughed at first and then cried again. "Burn them, Desmond. Don't watch this video. It will destroy you. Did you kill Sanfield?" "No, but I wanted to," he answered. "I tortured him a little, and he gave me all the materials. He didn't know it was me. I was wearing a mask and gloves. What can he even say? Why did he blackmail the musicians?" "No, he probably can't," Rachel agreed. "What are we going to do with Molly?" "I won't do anything with her," he said. "You'll have to decide this issue yourself." "Will you forgive her?" "Forgive her? You didn't sit here with my children when they cried from a broken heart. I don't have it in my heart, Rachel." She looked at him with pain. "You will destroy her, Desmond. You will destroy yourself too. I'm not the one who slept with a dirty producer. I'm not the one who betrayed my family for some contract. What are you talking about? She destroyed herself. Me, your children. Rachel, I love you, but if you mention her again, I won't be able to see you again. I can't even think about her. It makes me sick." Desmond felt his stomach turn. He jumped up and ran to the bathroom, where he vomited. Rachel stood by, stroking his hair until he finished. She washed his face with a damp cloth and watched as he brushed his teeth. "I'll have to mention her again," she said. "Janet and I talked. We won't be playing in the band with her anymore. She asked to move in with us. She's our friend, Desmond. We went to school with her. She's a cheater, but she's still our friend. Do you want us to throw her out into the street?" "No, of course," he said. "Do what you think is necessary. I know you won't leave her. I don't expect this from you. Just keep her away from me." Rachel nodded. "We can't control her, but we won't bring her here." "Are you going to divorce her?" "I haven't thought about it yet," he admitted. "Rachel, I need you to leave. You can come back tomorrow or whenever, but right now I need to be alone." She reached over and kissed him on the cheek, hugging him. "I love you, Desmond," she said. "It's a pity that I wasn't the first to ask you out. Do you want to sleep with me or Janet? We could. We would have done this years ago if it weren't for Molly. Would that make you feel better?" "No," he exclaimed. "I mean, you've always been attractive, but that would make us just like her." "I know," she said. "Just forget it. I love you, Desmond, and I will do anything to help you." He hugged her. "I know. I love you too." After she left, Desmond sat in his chair for a long time, mindlessly watching TV. Then he noticed the time on the clock and went to take the children to school. On the way, he got an idea. When the children came out, he put his arm around their shoulders. "How do you feel about going on vacation?" he asked. "We all need to rest and put our thoughts in order. Let's go to Florida, Disneyland, and the beach for a couple of weeks." The children were delighted with this idea. After returning from vacation, life began to improve, but there were still many challenges ahead. When they returned from the trip, life began to return to a more normal direction. Desmond spent every free minute with his children when he wasn't working. He hired Janet and Rachel to work in his store, which allowed him to spend less time at work and more time with his children. After much torment and thought, he decided to contact a lawyer and file for divorce. The lawyer explained that the process could take about 6 months if Molly did not object, and Desmond began filling out the paperwork. About a week after filing the application, he walked out to his car to go to work and saw Molly leaning against his car. Her car was blocking the exit, so he couldn't leave. She looked as beautiful as always. She was wearing jeans and a sweatshirt and still looked stunningly beautiful. A lump formed in his throat when he saw her. She looked so small, lonely, and unhappy. But then he remembered that she cheated on him. "Take the car away," he said coldly. "Please, Desmond, I need to talk to you," she said. "Well, I have nothing to talk to you about," he told her. "Move your car or I'll call the police. If you come here again, I'll get a restraining order." She began to sob inconsolably. "I don't care," she sobbed. "Call the police. Let them arrest me, but as soon as I get out, I'll come back here again. You can arrest me 1,000 times, and every time I get out of prison, I'll come back until you listen to me. Please, Des, just let me talk to you. I'll do whatever you want if you let me talk to you." "Fine," he said. "We'll go into the house and talk. Then I want you to leave and never come back here again. You said you'd do whatever I ask. That's what I want from you." "Okay, if this is what you want, then so be it," she sobbed. He walked to the door, opened it, and she entered. He sat down on the sofa, and she took a kitchen chair and pulled it in front of him. She reached for his hand, but he pulled it away. "Don't touch me," he said. Her hand slowly returned to her lap, and she looked at him with despair. "Desmond, I'm dying inside," she said. "I miss you so much it's killing me. I miss my children. I know I don't deserve anything, but I'm begging for mercy." "Maybe you should have thought about that while you were sleeping with some creep for a record deal," he answered bitterly. "Yes, it was worth it," sobbing, she answered. "I was drunk, Desmond. It was right after the concert, and I was drunk. You know how excited I get after performing." "I was drunk and excited too," he said. "But I was coming home and sleeping with my wife, not some prostitute in a bar. Why didn't you go to Rachel or Janet? You know I wasn't against it. Did someone make you get drunk? He did this against your will." "No," she sobbed. "I know it's my fault. I'm not trying to make excuses. I wanted this record deal so bad that I threw away everything else. There's no excuse for what I did. I know I deserve everything you think of me. I'm just asking for mercy. I have no excuses. I only need mercy, Des. Can you find mercy for me?" He was silent for a long time. "I can't now, Molly. It hurts too much. Maybe in a few weeks, months, or years. I'm sorry. No, what am I saying? You did it. What should I forgive?" "Nothing," she answered. "You've never done anything other than love me. It's my fault. I'll do anything, Des. Even walk away and leave you alone. Please let me see my kids. I won't if you don't want me to, but I need to somehow make it up to them. I'll probably die if you don't let me. Please, Des, I don't have anyone. My mom won't talk to me and Rachel can barely stand me. I need at least something, at least someone who doesn't hate me." "Maybe you can find a producer," he said. She just cried. "I know I deserve this. Please, Des, let me see my children." "They don't want to see you, Molly, and I won't force them," he said. "Haven't you hurt them enough? They're just starting to get back to normal. I won't stop them from seeing you if they want to." She reached out to him, but then pulled her hand away. "Thank you, Des. I won't forget this." "That's the thing, Molly. I don't believe a word you say. I won't forget it, but somehow you managed to forget that you had a husband who idolized you, children who thought you were a queen, and friends who loved you. Don't talk nonsense to me. I swear to God, if you hurt the children again, I will take them and leave for Tahiti. You will never have them again. You'll see." "Des, I made one mistake. I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Haven't you ever made a mistake?" "Yes, I fell in love with you," he answered bitterly. She covered her face with her hands and sank weakly into a chair, sobbing hysterically. "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry," she repeated again and again, like a person trying to open a lock with the wrong key. "What should I do?" she sobbed. "You want to beat me up? I'll let you and I won't say a word. You want to cheat on me? I'll let you and I'll never complain. Just let me be a part of your life, I'm begging you. Do you want to sleep with Janet or Rachel? They'll do it without a second thought. I'll ask them myself. What should I do, Des? God, Molly, do you think I never had thoughts about other women? Do you think I didn't notice that our friends were attractive? Of course I did, but I would never sleep with them because I loved you. I love our children and I respect myself too much to do that. I just want to say that I'm ready for anything, she answered. I know what I had and I know what I lost. If the kids forgive me, will you let me come home? I won't touch you, I swear, if you don't want me to. I'll never go anywhere without you or them. I'll hire detectives to follow me. I'll go to church. I'll try to make amends. If you let me come back, I'll get you back. Trusted. Desmond, I know I have to fix everything. I go to church 3 times a week. I will never pick up a musical instrument again if you don't want me to. Janet and Rachel won't play with me anyway. I won't drink a drop of alcohol if you don't allow me. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. I want to think, he said. The kids will be back soon and I don't want them to see you. I'll let Janet or Rachel know what I decide. Don't come here until you hear from me. Do you understand? Yes, can I try to arrange a meeting with the children? Yes, but if they don't want to, that's the end of it. Yes, I promise. I'm leaving. Thank you, Des. You won't regret it, I promise. Your promises mean nothing to me, he said. Don't make me any promises. No, I won't, she sobbed. I'm leaving. Wait a minute, he said. He brought her a towel, and she gratefully wiped away her tears. He held out his hand to take it, and she left without another word. 2 days later, Mandy walked up to him in his office and sat next to him. Mom wants to talk to me, she said. Rachel called me and asked me to talk to her. Do you think I should do this? He looked at his girl, and there were tears in his eyes. Yeah, I think she should, baby. She's still your mom, and the girl needs someone to be her mom. I think she wants to try to make things right. Give her a chance, Mandy. You'll never regret giving people more than one chance. I know how difficult it is when someone hurts you. Believe me, I struggle with this myself every day. I think you are braver than me. Go and talk to her. Thank you, Dad, she said. I miss her and I still love her. But I don't want you to think that I'm not committed to you. I'm on your side, but I miss her very much. I know, he stroked her head. Hold me. She hugged him and they cried together for a while. She left to do her homework and he returned to the computer. He studied the concept of mercy. He found a definition. When you refrain from punishing a person the way he deserves. He found another word that is related to this concept, grace. This meant when you give a person something he doesn't deserve. He struggled greatly with these 2 concepts. The next day, Janet picked Mandy up from school. She was gone for 4 hours, and when she got home, she didn't want to talk. I need to think, she said. Tomorrow after school, I'll tell you everything. I'll try to get Dre to talk to her. Okay, baby, if you think it's best this way, I trust you, he answered. The next day after school, she came to the store again and sat next to him. Dad, I talked to Mom for a long time, she said. She's suffering. She deserves to suffer, but I can't be the person to hurt her. I want to be cruel to her, but I can't. It hurts too much. It's okay, baby, he told her. I understand. What do you want to do? I want Dre to talk to her, and then I want you to let her come home. He groaned. I was afraid you would say that. This is so hard for me, Mandy. Every time I look at her, I want to strangle her. I know, Dad. I think we just need time. I was very angry with her at first. When she confessed to me, I tried to hit her. Janet stopped me. And now, when I look at her, it just hurts inside. I don't believe that she could do this to us. Remember when I cheated on the test and got caught? I think it's like that, only much worse. I knew it was wrong when I did it. I just wanted it so bad. Get 5 for not paying attention to my actions. I was very ashamed that I turned out to be such a person. I think my mother felt the same way. You didn't make a scandal about it then. I knew that you were disappointed, but you loved me and forgave me. Do you still love Mom? Yes, baby. That's why it hurts so much. I tried not to love her, but I can't. Then let her come home and live with us. Punish her and move on. I'm going to forgive her, and I hope you can too. I'm not as brave and good as you, he told her. It may take me a long time. It's okay, Dad. I'll help you. If you want to talk to me, I'm always ready. I love you and I want you to be happy. It was difficult for him to speak because of the lump in his throat. Thank you, Mandy. I love you too. The next day, Dry went to talk to his mother and was much easier to convince than his sister. He didn't fully understand what had happened, other than that his mom had done something terrible. His young mind was flexible, and he knew only one thing. He wanted his mother back. Desmond called Janet and said he wanted to meet Molly at their house. She and Rachel kissed him and left, leaving him alone with Molly. Well, you convinced the children, he told her. I'm not sure about Mandy, she answered. I know she still doesn't trust me. It's your fault, he said. Do you want to go home, Molly? Oh, please, Desmond. That's all I want, she begged. I know I have a lot to prove. I'm going to. No, I said I wouldn't promise you anything. You still won't believe me, right? You yourself made it so that I didn't believe it, he answered. Yes, I know. I regret it more than you'll ever know. I know what I had, Des. I know I lost it all. What do you want me to do? I want you to be a mother for our children, he said. I want you to apologize to Rachel and Janet and beg them to take you back. I want you to start playing again. I'll even play with you. I want our lives to go back to normal. Will you sleep with me? She asked. Yes, but for now it will only be a dream. Perhaps it will always be like this. I feel uneasy at the thought of touching you, Molly. Maybe I can get over it. We'll see. I'll go to counseling with you. I'm going to forgive you. It'll take me a while. Can you live with it? Yes, I'll take whatever you give me. I'm so sorry, Desmond. I know what I did. I had the perfect life and the perfect husband, and I destroyed it all for some stupid contract. But I want you to know something. While this was happening, I felt nothing but disgust. I hated myself and him too. You are still the only man who gave me pleasure, and the only one I have ever been with. Wanted to be. I just want you to know, I love you. I will always love you and belong to you whenever you want it. I will understand it myself and accept the consequences. And one more thing, he said. You'll stop apologizing. I know you're sorry. You've already shown it. You're not going to atone for anything. I'm taking you back because I need it. It's for me as much as it is for you. You don't deserve this, but I didn't deserve all those happy years that we had. No one wants to get what they deserve, and especially not me. Do you understand? Yes, you show me mercy. Thank you, Desmond. Pack your things, he said. She jumped to her feet and hurried to gather everything she needed. On the way home, he reached out and took her hand. We can handle it, Molly, he said. Obladi, she smiled at him through her tears. You took my hand. 9 years later, he stood next to Mandy in the record company office as Molly, Rachel, and Janet signed their second contract. Molly looked at him triumphantly, and he gave her a thumbs up in approval. Mandy gave her a fist pump, encouraging her, and she smiled happily. They still had problems. 2 years of counseling, countless long conversations into the early morning hours, and Molly's constant work to rebuild his trust got them through it. Desmond still had trust issues. Molly hired a detective. He didn't follow her all the time, but would appear suddenly so she would never know when she was being checked. The detective submitted reports every 6 months to Desmond. He never opened them. Molly watched them herself. She never drank in public and made sure that only Janet and Rachel stayed with her after performances until she could return home to Desmond. She tried to take her children with her wherever she went, and if this was impossible, friends. She didn't trust herself for a long time. Her life was an open book to Desmond. She saved all her messages and call logs and showed them to him until a year and a half later he forbade it. I can't live like this, Molly, he said. You either keep your promises or you don't. I'm going to believe everything you tell me until I know otherwise. I'm going to trust you until you make me look like a fool. I don't think you will. He was very proud of her that day. 9 years of evidence have done their job. She walked up to him and rubbed herself on his shoulder. "I'm so horny," she whispered. "I can't wait until we get home." He laughed and hugged his beautiful wife. "Do you think Rachel and Janet are excited too?" he teased her. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next